Welcome, everybody, back to Draft Class here on Knicks Film School. I'm Kris Persianen, really excited to join you all once again, this time alongside a very special guest. It is tradition at this point to have this man on every season of the show as a guest lecturer, I guess, of my draft class. Trying to roll with the pun somehow. Sam Vecenie of The Athletic, the man who every single year puts his blood, sweat, and tears into my annual Bible regarding the NBA draft, his draft guide, which is so like Sam will be like, I spoke to this prospect's coach's dog walker who says that he's always on time to practice. Sam, you're crazy and I love it. Thanks so much for taking the time. It's awesome to have you.
I try not to put too much of that stuff in, but I do it. I do it. And I try not to say all of the things that I know is what I would say. That's why the Ron Hall, I saw the Ron Holland stuff going around the last couple of days. And I was like, not the intel I have on Ron Holland. Everyone mostly thinks he's like a pretty good kid. I met him in Santa Barbara. He was a nice kid when I met him. So I don't know, but hey, I mean, I'm media and you would hope he's not like a total shitheel, right? Like if you're just like being an asshole. No, he's really nice. I really liked Ron, and everybody around him that I met there was quite nice. So yeah, no, it was a weird one. It was a weird one.
There's also the annual, we'll see who it is this year, the Do They Love Basketball award winner of the year.
Oh, we know who that is this year.
And
it's Kel'el Ware. Everybody.
Oh, that's right.
Look, here's the thing about Kel'el Ware. And I want to be clear about this. The intel is so much better this year than what it was last year. Like last year, this isn't even like private, like it's circulated in basketball circles or whatever. Dana Altman was in press conferences while he was at Oregon saying we just need him to be more engaged. We need him to give more effort. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, Dana, just maybe keep some of it behind closed doors a little bit so you don't crush the kid. All of the intel this year has been much better at Indiana. I do just want to say that publicly. He still plays a style from time to time that is a little bit disengaged defensively for me that bothers me. But in general, the intel behind the scenes in terms of the work ethic stuff, it is better this year than what it was last year.
That is why kids my age and younger should not be held accountable for 1 year of their short lives and given chances to grow. But you did the thing, you brought up a center, and that is a position that I have been kind of keen on discussing for the New York Knickerbockers in this draft. Less so because I think they lose one of their two centers, more so because I think obviously they'll re-sign Precious Achiuwa and just have him be the third stringer if that's what it comes to. But I have this feeling that they want a young center to be the understudy of Robinson and Hartenstein, working with Othello Harrington and coming up as a cost-controlled player, in waiting in the wings. There's Edey, Holmes, from my lovely A10. There is Ware, and then there's Yves Missi. And Yves Missi kind of has the young Mitchell Robinson vibe to him a little bit. Edey's the polar opposite kind of player. Ware is whatever the third polar opposite is. That's these guys are, and then Holmes is somewhere closer in that range. But when you think of these four guys, if the New York Knicks were actually going to select one of the four, say they're all there at 24, who stands out to you as the guy that you're Coach Tom Thibodeau is going to watch this guy's film and be like, I hate you for making me watch someone younger than 27, but I'll deal with him?
I think he would like Edey. I think he would like Yves Missi as well, but I think he would like Edey. And the reason that I think he would like Edey is that Edey is an ass kicker. There's not really another way to put what Zach Edey does on the court. He is an awesome screener, which is really important for this offense. He's an awesome. He flips screens, he rescreens. He's just really, really good in terms of getting his man some separation. He's not the best rim gravity threat or anything. Purdue would often kind of roll him into post ups, right? Because that's the way that It worked in college. Zach Edey was way bigger than everybody. Here's the thing. Zach Edey's still going to be way bigger than everybody in the NBA. It's just going to be slightly less bigger than everybody in the NBA. When you're 7'4" without shoes and you have a 7'10" wingspan, you're still going to be an enormous human. I think he would like Edey. I think that he would like the fact that Zach improved a lot in terms of drop coverage this past year. I actually think he's like a pretty okay, like I feel okay about him in drop. I will just say that full scale. I think that like his short area quickness laterally is not disastrous. To me, the thing that is hard, his back pedal in the drop is not awesome. I think it's
that I've noticed.
A little bit funky, but he uses his length really well. He keeps his hands up. He stays as big as possible, which when you have that much margin for error really does take up a lot of space. The place I'm a little bit more worried about Zach is in transition, like getting up and down the floor consistently. I think that where he could be a concern is there, where like, is he going to create marginally more 4-on-5 chances for the defense? 4-on-5 moments where the defense is guarding 4-on-5 while he gets back into the play. I think there is a chance of that. I will say Zach Edey is in like unbelievable shape. He is one of the most well-conditioned athletes for his size I have seen, point blank. He is in unbelievable physical condition. He was running out 40-minute games in the NCAA tournament against physical teams like Connecticut, Tennessee, like those teams try and beat the shit out of you. And he had no problem running out those games. It's really more just like running up and down the court and like being able to consistently have it with like real speed to be able to get up and down. That's a concern for me, but I think the screening, the rim protection, the drop coverage stuff, I think that, and the toughness and the rebounding, I think that Tibbs would really like that. If you made me say the number 2 guy, I think it would probably be Missi, just in terms of what, he is much more of a project than some of these other guys.
That's what I worry about, is that Thibodeau would think he's just too raw. I remember hearing that like if both were on the board, Thibodeau would prefer Johnny Davis to Tari Eason because Eason's a project. And it's like, okay, if he sees that way,
it's not ideal, but in terms of like the game, it is very direct in the way that the Knicks like for their centers. He can really rim run. He can protect the rim. He is an insane vertical athlete for how big he is. And he is like physical, like he's 245 pounds. Like he's not going to have a problem. Like to me, he's like a Clint Capella-y starter kit. Now, I think he's a little bit smaller than what Clint was, but I actually think he's a little bit more vertical than what Clint ever was. So he kind of makes up for it in that respect. Like, I agree with you. Like, it really might just be too much of a project for them. But if you're going to have both Robinson and Hartenstein on this roster, you have a lot more margin for error and margin to take on those projects if you're willing to. I don't know. It's hard because like I think Holmes is the best complement to what they have right now in terms of like can step away and shoot. There's a world where you can squint and you can see him playing the 4. I don't think he moves well enough to do that personally, but I have heard some teams that think that they'll be able to get that out of him. So I'm not ruling it out. He can shoot it a little bit. I will be intrigued to see how the shot holds up at the NBA level because I think it takes him a good amount of time to like really load into the shot and everything.
Right.
If he's playing the 5, I think that that's more okay than if he's playing the 4. It's not like he has to like fly off of movement and like really get the shot up quickly. He's really just picking and popping at that circumstance and drop. I worry a little bit. He's just not very big in drop coverage. So if Tibbs wants to play drop and like wants to ice ball screens and things like that, he doesn't take up as much space as the other guys. But if we're talking about like trying to find the best complement to these other players, I think he's the best complement to the big room. Having said that, I think he does like the big man things that you ask a big to do, like for the Knicks, right? They want bigs who offensive rebound and defensive rebound and rim run and, set great screens and like the true, like play great and drop coverage.
They like don't believe in stretch fives almost. Like it's not.
Yeah. Like he doesn't do the big things as well as other bigs in this class, I would say. Now, like, would they be willing to look at things differently? He's an awesome kid. Like, maybe, I don't know, possible, but yeah, I don't know. I'm curious how they eval Holmes, I guess.
They have historically not believed in stretch fives unless they are the caliber of shooter that someone like Porzingis, who is, funnily enough, now doing his thing on the biggest stage, can. And so
should we throw Filipowski into this mix too?
See, I've struggled with this because to me, he's one of those guys where you like, if you look at him from a certain angle, you're like, this is everything Tom Thibodeau would not want. And then you look at him from a different angle and you're like, oh, but he would love this kid. And so it's so tough, right? But ultimately, Thibodeau will deal with things if you are giving him either an elite skill or two, or just are overall good enough where he can say like, okay, this is worth it. Like he doesn't care that Josh Hart is not a shooter. He cared that Emmanuel Quickley was not a rim pressure guy, but to make up for it, let him pull from 30. And so like, he will bend, he won't break, but he will bend. And I've written about this before, how certain players will come along and challenge his perception of what a certain position is supposed to do in the NBA. But they better make it worth his time.
Yeah. And this is something I've been thinking a lot about in regard to like the finals and in regard to the playoffs in general. And the Knicks had a very successful playoffs, I think, right? Like, I don't think that you can look at it a different way. If Jalen Brunson, doesn't get worn down, if Julius Randle, is healthy, if OG Anunoby is totally healthy, we could be looking at them as a Eastern Conference Finals team for sure. In my opinion.
Robinson, Bogdanovic,
of course,
Brunson,
like so many,
Anunoby, right? Randall, the second trainer, the fourth trainer. It's just like everyone was hurt. I just like, if they had a mascot, he would have pulled an ACL doing a cartwheel. Like it was that kind of year.
It's just a very unlucky circumstance. So. I say this to say that I think that you need to be able to do a lot of different things in the playoffs to be able to match up with different, matchups that teams will present, right? You look at the way that Boston is beating Dallas on offense, particularly right now. Boston is just pulling Derek Lively away from the rim and neutralizing him entirely by playing 5 out, right? They're saying, okay, we're going to put Kristaps in the corner, or we're going to put Al Horford or Kristaps above the break. Dallas is switching too easily, so they're just like kind of allowing Lively to get switched on to, a guard or a wing or whatever, and they'll just leave that wing above the break. Like they're very, very intentional in terms of their spacing, and they have very clear assignments, and they know the assignment that when Derek Lively is on you, go out, be away from the basket, do not go to the dunker spot, stay above the break if you have to. So with the Knicks, I do worry that they would run into some of that in a playoff series with Mitchell Robinson and Hartenstein. I think they ran into it a little bit already against Indiana because Indiana similarly plays 5 out. I think it would be really, really important for the Knicks to have a 5 out answer, at least in the playoffs. That is where Holmes and Filipowski come in. But the original question was, would Tom Thibodeau do that? I don't know the answer to that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Listen, there were games against Philadelphia before half the injuries happened where you saw Joel Embiid at the 5 for the Sixers and OG Anunoby at the 5 for the Knicks.
Yeah.
That is a thing
that's like full scale small though. Like I wonder if he would be more inclined to just go full scale small as opposed to like having a spacing center out there, or like a Filipowski or a Holmes, let's call it, right? Thinking that let's just go super small. Let's go Anunoby, Hart. I mean, maybe like Julius Randle could change that. If Randle comes back next year, we'll see what they do with him in the summer.
He's hated Randle at the 5 historically.
He hasn't played a lot of it. So like
there wasn't Anunoby in the past. So
yeah. So like maybe you can go Anunoby, Randle, but if you do that, you know, are you still getting the same effect kind of the Anunoby at the 5 where he's actually like a real shooter? Because yes, Julius Randle's, you know, percentages have fluctuated throughout his career, right? Like he has great years and he has rough years, but it feels like to me, the overarching thing is that teams don't really treat him as a shooter in the way that they could or should, right? Like they're just going to try and load up and stop the drive with his left hand more than anything. So like, do you get the same effect? I don't know. We're kind of, you know, digressing into like a totally different territory here, but it is philosophical in terms of what the Knicks think of their 5 situation. So yeah, and yes, the jinx was a good one.
I've brought this up on this season of this show. Like someone, I'm not sure of their name, but they posted like a 20+ page essay on why stretch 5s aren't real. And there are very few actual stretch 5s, and that Porzingis is one of them. A couple weeks after that was posted, it completely disappeared. It was scrubbed from the internet. And our coworker here at Knicks Film School, Jeremy Cohen, found the guy on LinkedIn, and he was a data scientist for the New York Knicks. So like they hired him. Funny. They hired him and were like, delete this forever, please, God. So,
I understand that take, and I don't think it's incorrect on some level, right? I do think that as the league continues to go more toward 5 out, and as more of these bigs continue to develop a jumper in the future, that is going to keep changing though. Like they're going to be
versatility.
More of these guys. Yeah.
As you were saying, scheme versatility in the NBA playoffs is everything. And
I'm not saying like it needs to be your primary. I just think you need a combo breaker more than anything.
So if we're talking about the New York Knicks zagging from their typical MO when it comes to player acquisition, like they valued a lot of the same things for a long time. Pull-up shooting from 3 for guards and wings, fundamentals from centers. Like you were saying about Edey staying big, like the first major change Tom Thibodeau made to Mitchell Robinson's game was bulk up, stop getting 9 block games where you're blocking people's 3-pointers, just take up 2 passing lanes down low, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
So that to me is where Missi would almost tick Thibodeau off, because he's like, you're so athletic, you can make up for playing drop coverage at the top of the key, but I want you down low taking up 2 passing lanes. So that's why part of why I agree about Edey. But
like the thing on Missi is though too, you know, like Mitchell Robinson, right? Like Mitchell Robinson, by the way, was like I don't want to say like questionable in terms of like who he was as a kid or anything. It was just like the intel was like, you know, what is he kind of thing? Like whenever he was younger, does he know who he is kind of thing?
His high school coach, he started playing basketball because his high school coach saw him playing pickup at recess and was like, yeah, who the hell are you? And why the hell are you not on my team? And that's how his career started. So like it took him a little bit to get his footing.
Well, and Mitchell's like a prime example of like, you know, these intel reports on kids, we do them when they're 19 and 20 years old. Like we don't know who they are. The kid probably doesn't know who he is on some level, right? Like it's completely, all of this stuff just like completely changes over time. And I don't even know that it changed with Mitchell. It was just like people probably didn't have the right read on him as a human being. And he's this like awesome person and like this incredible human being, it seems like, that everybody loves. So yeah, no, that's the thing. You know, we talked about Kel'el Ware at the top with like the intel thing. Like, you know, these guys change all the time, and you know, it's not even necessarily change. They grow and mature as you get older, like everybody does. So with Missi, the thing I will say though is that like his intel report is awesome. He's like this kid that knows like 5 languages and is, really, really, really sharp. Like his brother went to Harvard. The family is like super academically inclined. Like he is like a really, really good kid from everything I know. So I think he would be willing to listen to Tom Thibodeau, like very, very coachable from everything I know.
Yeah, that's also been part of the Knicks MO, is taking guys with, glossy intel reports who need to be locked out of the Kentucky gym at 4 a.m. or who need to, just can't stop working, like a Deuce McBride. So that's been that. But where I wanted to go was if they were going to deviate from their typical MO, someone you might know, Mr. Bryce Simon, brought up Bub Carrington as
Bub ain't getting to 24 or 25. I can tell you that now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's been the latest trend.
I can assure you he's not getting to 24 or 25, just about. I'm not saying he has like a promise or anything, but like I feel pretty good. He's not going to be an option for the Knicks at 24 at least.
So who might be that would represent them saying, hey, we love what we do. Let's stretch out a little bit.
Yeah. Interesting question. Tyler Kolek to me screams Knicks. So like, he's not really the answer to this question to me.
You love mocking him to the Knicks, and for good reason, especially given they just lost a playoff series to a team that had TJ McConnell on it, and Kolek can shoot.
Yeah. So he can shoot off the catch. Off the bounce, like he made 27%, I think it was, from his threes out of ball screens. He made 5 of his 15 threes out of handoffs, if I remember correctly. And I think the ones he made tended to be more just like flattening out behind a handoff off the catch and just firing, right? So I know he's working, I've talked to him. I have a film breakdown with him coming in the next few days, basically up on the YouTube channel. He's working on getting to where he's like a more comfortable pull-up shooter. Like that's his big thing. And he clearly has touch, right? Ticks so many of the boxes for the Knicks, right? Like he just does. He is super tough. He can really, really pass, plays off of 2 feet, which I think is like a sneaky thing that they really look at as well. Like everybody brings up the Villanova connection. I think the reason that they like the Villanova guys is because of that. Like they're always on balance. They're always playing off of 2 feet. They're always just like so confident and poised with the ball, right? Great footwork. They've been taught so incredibly well. The CAA connection there does not hurt either. So I think Kolek like makes a ton of sense for them. I think you could play Kolek with Deuce and like have them like share because they both can shoot the ball off the catch. Like, Deuce can play defense. Kolek, I will say this. I think Kolek is an underrated defender. I think people think of him as like the small white dude out there who can't do anything on defense. I think he knows where he has to be in team coverages. I think he is a solid team defender. He reads the court well because he's a really smart, high IQ basketball player. And when he can keep his chest in front of you, he's okay. He's not fast. Like he will get beat off the bounce, and you do have to worry about that. And that is a genuine factor with him. He is not overly quick. But in terms of like team defense and like kind of bodying up and having strength, I think he's actually more okay there than what he gets credit for.
Yeah, he's, like the corny coach line that I love to lean on is 51% of defense is effort. And obviously that doesn't change if you're like 4'7". Like, okay, you can try really hard, but you are going to get dunked on by Ish Smith. Like that doesn't matter, right? But that said, Kolek is like definition of dog, bulldog, whatever it is. People love that in basketball players, or they like certain personality types, and that coincides with being a quote unquote dog. But that's Tyler Kolek. And like, he's someone who everyone on that Marquette team, no matter whether you think Cam Jones is going to be the best player to come out of this year's team. If you're an Iguodaro guy, whatever it is, like every guy on the roster that wore that jersey this year says that Kolek is like the best player in the whole Big East all year. And so they really respect him. He's like a quarterback who you're like, oh, he's got the respect of his teammates. They all like playing for him. The O-line loves blocking for him. Like that kind of vibe.
Yeah, the Kolek thing is interesting because, like you mentioned like best players in the Big East. Like the names I got this year, I ask these questions to like prospects whenever I get a chance, certainly coaches. The three names I get consistently are Kolek, Devin Carter, and then do you know the answer I've gotten the most?
Not Scheierman.
Baylor Scheierman is the answer I've gotten the most.
Wow.
From coaches and players. Yeah. Like if I combine the two, it was Scheierman was the answer that came the most, because shoots it, passes, if you go and you watch the Tennessee game where they gave him the primary assignment on Dalton Connect, he is way better than what he gets credit for on defense. Again, like it's probably more Sam Hauser-y in terms of like, he's just big and can hold up, right? We're not sitting here talking about like a stopper on defense by any stretch, but he knows how to move off of screens. He knows how to deal with physicality. He's strong. Like if he can keep in front of somebody, he's pretty okay. Really high basketball IQ. He's another one that I have a film session coming on YouTube later this week. Really fun basketball player that has like this creative mindset. And I don't think the Knicks are like a team that cares about high school quarterbacks, right? He literally is the high school quarterback that you were just mentioning. He threw, I think it was like 59 touchdowns in his junior or senior season. I think he like set the record in Nebraska for touchdowns in the year he played quarterback.
Hello?
Yeah. Like was like obscenely good.
Okay. Like what? That's going to be good trivia in like 10 years.
And we actually talked about it in terms of the way he sees the court too.
Oh,
like,
that's awesome.
He thinks about it like the way he processes reads almost is like progressions, like you're a quarterback, like going from read 1 to read 2 to read, like it's really interesting to like kind of hear him talk about it.
That's awesome. Was it the Pacers that ran 4 verticals for an inbounds play or something this year?
That ruled.
Get him on the Pacers, man. Let him be that inbound guy.
I'm in. Let's do it. By the way, though, like I think he should be an option for the Knicks. Like that's right around the range I have him.
So late first.
Yeah, I have him at 24 right now.
Okay, that's a pick they have. Not that that's how big boards work, but you know what I mean.
Certainly not, but yeah.
I love posting big boards and someone being like, "Why would they take him at 9?" I'm like, "Okay, thank you."
Yeah, like truly, people like big boards. That's why I do them, and on some level, they are valuable. I would have a drastically different big board for the Knicks than I would for the Heat, than I would for the Bucks, than I would for the Celtics, right? Because all of these teams value different things at the end of the day. So a big board, when people talk about fit and drafting for fit as opposed to need, or as opposed to like best player available, the best player available on your board is going to be the one that fits your scheme the best, especially if you're an established organization like the Knicks are with Tom Thibodeau, like the Heat are with Eric Spoelstra, like I think the Celtics look like now with Joe Mazzulla, and certainly with Brad Stevens in charge with them wanting to play a certain way. The Warriors, for example, the guys who are going to be best, the Warriors are the best example of this to me, because I had Brandon Pajemski like very low on my personal board last year. if I was drafting for the Warriors specifically, I probably would have had him in the top 20, because the way that he thinks the game, the way that he's a great screener for a smaller player, the way that he is able to move the ball around the building, it just works really, really well within that scheme and that structure. But if you said to him, hey, we need you to be a point guard and we're going to run this heliocentric offense and we're going to do this and that, and you're going to be the backup point guard, I don't think he would be very successful at that. So, all of this is to say that where you land is really important in terms of development, but also when you're identifying the talent and when you're trying to figure out, is this best player available? Best player available for every team is rightfully very different, in my opinion.
It should be it is and should be. I think your opinion is just fact. And that is the reality of having so many moving parts and so many factors. Also, I've been reading the Ian Thompson book about the 2011 season, and he talks about how great pitchers and great quarterbacks are sitting for half the game. Basketball is a full out, like you were saying, Zach Edey, guys like Devin Carter too, giving you 40 out of 40 minutes when you're evaluating this tape. That is a different ball game, no pun intended. And I think that it's so important to look at minutia, look at little things. How do they deal with certain circumstances? They're down 7. There's 37 seconds left. Are they rotating to their fullest ability? Little tiny things like that, because those things will show up over the years, especially if you're planning on keeping the kid around long term until he's no longer a kid. That is, something to consider. I want to go back to the word we said at the same time and talk philosophy for a little bit, just because of our mutual shared belief that pigs will fly before the New York Knicks make selections at 24, 25, and 38.
Yeah.
Because of this,
I don't think they'll make all 3. Yeah.
I don't have a mortgage, but if I did, I would bet it that the Knicks do not do that. So if they keep one first round pick, they kick one down the road, they kick the can down the road, they punt it, however you want to put it. What archetype of prospect, and I'm not talking about a rim pressure too, what would it be? A project? Would it be someone who Thibodeau, if someone got hurt, would be willing to throw in? Who would you target in this specific draft class in the late first round?
So just to make sure I'm understanding the question here, if they only have one pick, who would be the player I would try to get, basically?
Yeah, even if you want to say 2 or 3 different guys that all fit a similar mold, not in positionally, but in terms of what the draft pick would represent.
So here'd be my question. Do we think there's a chance they try to package 24 and 25 to move up? Right? If they want one guy, would they try and go hey, 76ers, we know you're trying to fill out your roster. You have 20, we'll give you 24 and 25 to move up to 16 because we think that's a different tier of the draft where we really love Jared McCain or something like that. Right. Or are we saying that's a possibility here? Or are we saying it has to be someone more in the 24 to 25 tier, or a player style in the 2024 or 24, 25 tier?
They historically, what's funny is the only person I've ever heard about them being dead super serious trading up for is Jaden Ivey. And I don't, maybe you have heard otherwise, but there's no one else. There were mild Obi rumors, and then they were hold on, wait, we're just going to play the board. But other than Toppin and Ivy, I have not heard any rumblings, no twigs snapping in the forest about a trade up.
I think they're much more likely to trade out than trade up. My only issue this year would be that I think it's going to be harder to trade out at 24 and 25 to get a future first, because this draft is not seen particularly positively by teams. So if you're trying to move like one of those picks in 38 to get a future first, I mean, man, it'd have to be a team that like loves somebody in that spot, like truly, truly loves somebody.
So Brock Aller, if we're saying he's not a trade up guy, okay, right? But who would that be? Because McCain, like I know Jonathan Wasserman just did the Emmanuel Quickley comparison for him, which I think was accurate in regards to good perimeter player who's not going to be able to get 2 feet in the paint and finish whenever he wants without a screen, with Thibodeau,
he's almost he's like a middle ground between like Brunson and Quickley, kind of, in terms of like big, physical, strong, powerful. I actually think he's going to be able to get to the lane a little bit more than that. Personally, not a lot. Like he's not going to be a rim pressure guy by any stretch of the imagination. But like
exactly, and
yeah, he's like more of a middle ground between the two of them.
Thibodeau started Elfrid Payton for 82 games because he could get to the rim. So like, there's a method to his madness that has resulted in the New York Knicks being the best team they've been in my 22-year lifetime. But if there's something he leans on, it's rim pressure.
I will pitch you a potential avenue here. There, I think, is a chance that Ron Holland falls into that like post-lottery range. I don't think it will happen. I do think he will end up being taken in the lottery, but I think there is a chance that he could fall into that range. Certainly, we watched Cam Whitmore, God, not Cam Reddish, Cam Whitmore, like drop for reasons beyond my comprehension last year, and reasons that quickly were proven quite silly based on the way he played for Houston this year. What if Ron Holland ends up like around pick 16 or so? I think that's, your rim pressure wing that can certainly drive in a straight line and attack. I worry about his handle. Like, I don't think he's quite the ball handler that some people do. I'm not one of those people that has like a top 3 grade on him. I don't. I think there is way more downside with him, just skill wise, than what people think. Like, he is a guy that really struggles to shoot the ball right now, and his handle is not like overly functional in terms of like shiftiness or creativity, right? He's just a straight line. Like, I'm going to get to the rim. I have good, long strides. I can, create whenever I have wider driving lanes, and I would have wider driving lanes, hopefully, with the Knicks. Like, there are options where you can see it working. But Ron Holland's also super tough. He is super competitive. I can see the Knicks like really appreciating some of his attributes in that way. If he was to drop further down the board than what I'm envisioning him dropping down.
Yeah, I can see Schmitz grabbing him at 14 and running away with him. So
maybe, yeah, possible. I don't know about at 7, but I can see it at 14.
Exactly. Not 7, 14. A lot of people saying like connect at 7. I don't know that fits their MO, but if Connect and Holland would be a certain, like, that would definitely be like a yin and yang duo of wings to grab.
That would be pretty fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be something. I would do it if Holland fell. I had Cam Whitmore top 3. But Holland doesn't have the 99.9th percentile athleticism and athletic testing that Whitmore did. So to me, Holland presents more as the AJ Griffin type of bet, where it's like you're betting on the kid being a good basketball player because he has been a good basketball player and does the things that players at his position that are good can do. But it's not like you're also leaning on a 8-cylinder engine powering that thing. Like, it's just it's a little different than Whitmore for that reason to me. But like,
yeah,
generally I completely get what you're saying and agree that I wanted the Knicks to call about. I think it was the knees or the knee singular why Whitmore fell. right? Mostly?
Yeah, and it's not shorter term. There were a number of things that I don't really want to go into with Cam, but there is like some longer term concern about like how his knees will hold up, basically.
Yeah, and that's I get teams putting millions of dollars into these draft picks, getting that or being worried about that. Right, like in that same Thompson book I'm talking about, the Roy pick debate was a thing. So yeah, and that to me makes it scary, but also like that's what you do in the first round. Especially if you're a bad team, is you swing to hit a ball 400 feet. You're not trying to bunt for a single. And so like, I don't get why a team in the top 10 didn't swing, I guess is my harsh take. But that said, I would want the Knicks to go swing for Holland if he fell. A lot of people have him as 1.1 and I'm like, okay,
yeah, I can't get there on him. I like Ron Holland. I think he's a good player, but yeah, can't get there on him.
That's same. And I think it's fair. That said, if he's outside of the teens and they can trade up, they should do it. My AP Kev pointed out that Maxey is the other guy ever that the Knicks like were rumored to want to trade up for. After they got Obi at 8, they tried getting into the teens for him, I was told that year, but that didn't. No one bit at that apple. So yeah, I think Holland would be super interesting. Sam, I know I can't, even though I'd love to take your entire day to put out like a 14-hour episode. I can't. And so I will leave you with this final question. In the second round, the New York Knicks have stolen talent like a kid at Party City grabbing candy out of the dollar bin. I mean, they, not speaking from experience, they have taken Deuce McBride at 36, Jericho Sims at 58. Even Jokubaitis might come over this summer. This might be the summer that the thing actually happens. And
kind of thinking he will. Like that's right? And I don't know this. This is not me reporting this. For the love of God, do not aggregate this.
Breaking.
There was a report that Juan Nunez is going over to Barca this summer and will be their point guard. Juan Nunez in this draft class currently plays for Radio Farm Ulm over in Germany. Spanish point guard, was on their World Cup team last summer or whenever the fuck that was. Really interesting long-term point guard. Could be more of a Europe guy than an NBA guy. We'll see, but like an incredibly fun, creative mind as a basketball player. He's going over to play for Barca. So I'm wondering if like Rokas, if they might know that like Rokas might be leaving and like they're filling the hole there potentially, but I don't know enough about like Barca's team building to like confirm that. That's just like me connecting dots on something that may or may not exist.
That's an angle of that I've not heard before, and I thought I was at least as plugged in to Barca as I could be from New York City. So that's good news. I would like to see Jokubaitis over and in summer league, but I know that the playoff, the quarterfinals are then. So it depends. That said, in the second round, I've talked about Melvin Ajinka as someone who could be a look at 38. Sure. Would you have a name or two that stand out to you as like, this is a fit with the Knicks?
Sure. I'm not a huge Jinsa guy. I like Pacom Dadier a little bit better. I'm not convinced Dadier gets all the way down to 38 necessarily. But like just a bigger, kind of scorer in the same way that a Jinsa is a scorer. Look, if you told me Ryan Dunn got down to 38, that would not blow my mind by any stretch. They could take him at 25, to be honest with you too. And like, I wouldn't hate that pick necessarily as a long rangy defender that I'm sure Tom Thibodeau would absolutely adore coaching. I don't think he can offense is my just point blank issue on Ryan Dunn. I really have worries on whether or not he can like reach the NBA level. Like he just doesn't look comfortable with the ball in his hands. And I will be interested to see how teams evaluate that in the draft. Anybody else that like really stands out? I really like Antonio Reeves. I have a higher grade on Reeves, I would guess, than anybody in the public sphere. I have a top 40 on him.
Oh,
and he kind of ticks the boxes in terms of like shooting that they clearly have wanted with like Boyan and, obviously in the past having had Alec Burks, right? Like they clearly want that like bench shooter to be able to come in and knock down shots. I don't think Reeves can do that from like day one at the NBA level, but he's a really legitimate shooter who has some counters in terms of like driving and attacking and getting to a floater. He can get to the rim occasionally. He's like 6'5", like he's a bigger dude. I think that he's an interesting option for the Knicks in a way that could end up surprising. Anybody else? I mean, like, God, we mentioned bigs earlier, like a Dembona. Like, I mean, Tibbs would love
that. I was just about to say that's a Tibbs one.
Yeah, like if they give Tibbs carte blanche at 38, like there's no way he's not taking Bona if they haven't taken a big. Like his motor is just unbelievable. He plays so hard. You can tell him to do, like, you can have so much scheme versatility in terms of switching. You can play him in drop. You can play him at the level and recover. You can like hard hedge and like blitz if you want to, and he can still recover back. Like he moves really, really well. That's one I can see Tibbs like absolutely loving.
Yeah, he loves. I theorize that Jericho Sims is like, he's not an elite rim protector, but he remains on the Knicks roster, I think, because he works his tail off and he doesn't cause any trouble. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes it's that simple to be on the end of the bench. Like Sims is a super hard worker, and I think Tibbs just really likes and respects that about him. And I think Sims is liked in the locker room too, because he's so quiet, keeps his head down, always shows up to practice ready to go, always trying his butt off. Like that's a factor.
The last two guys, I haven't mentioned anybody in the backcourt yet, right? I really like Jamal Shed and AJ Mitchell. I think AJ Mitchell's probably gone by then. If you made me bet right now, if there was like an over under like 37.5 on Mitchell, like I think I would say he's gone by 38, but I think he's really good, really talented, very similar athletic profile to Jalen Brunson, not quite as like shifty not as skilled in terms of footwork, but like shiftiness, deceleration, like a lot of that stuff. P3 has tested both of them and came off with like basically the same profile athletically as what each other has. Similar in terms of floater game, getting to the basket and finishing, just needs to improve the shot, needs to be able to keep defenders off balance in that way. And then, Jamal Shed is like my favorite player in this class. He's not the best player in the class, obviously, but like he is the player whose tape I put on and enjoy the most, because his defensive side of the court, I think, I'm not saying he's the highest upside defender. Like he's not the best defensive prospect I've ever evaluated in the backcourt, like at the point guard position. I think that his tape defensively is the best tape I've ever evaluated defensively as a point guard. He is unbelievable. His anticipation, his point of attack defense, his ability to like crowd you from 90 feet up the court. He plays 1-on-2 on the backside better than any point guard I think I've ever seen in my life at the college level. It is staggering how good he is on that end. It blows my mind every time I put on the tape. He's one of my favorites. I love Jamal Shed, and I think that Tom Thibodeau would love him. There's overlap with Deuce McBride, but I think if you could like give Tom Thibodeau 5 Deuce McBrides, he'd probably be happy with that. So like that seems right to me.
That he's a POA demon. Shed is a sicko. Like he'll like make these plays in ball screens where like he fights over the top of the ball screen, recovers to get back in front, and then someone will try and make like a backside like shake pass, like coming up from the corner to the wing, and he'll just jump it and like get as big as possible and just like snatch the ball out of the air, like while guarding on the ball.
it's insane. Some of the like anticipatory defensive plays he makes.
And it's encouraging offensively, because to do that, you need to have such a knowledge of forwards, backwards, and sideways, read and right to left of the playbook, and of understanding basketball principles, and of understanding what teams try to do. And so you got to know basketball principles. You got to know your playbook. You got to know their film. You got to know everything upside down. And he does it. And that, to me, is like, okay, that's a guy I'm willing to bet on improving in important ways. Reese Beekman is another name I like to bring up, just like because of defense too. So yeah, fun draft class.
Look, I have a little bit lower of a grade on Reese, but like I have no problem, like, because it's a fit, right? Like it really works for what they like, right? I'm trying to think of anybody else. Like, can we talk about the Zay Crawford thing real quick? Because like I see a lot of Knicks fans that like truly love Zay Crawford, and I would venture I'm probably going to end up higher than where the, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like there's this weird, like, fucking thing where people say like mainstream draft people versus like non-mainstream. And, like, I don't even know where I fall into that. It's probably mainstream, but like whatever. I'll probably end up higher on Zay Crawford than what most other people will from that side of the aisle. I see some people bringing him up for the first round, and I just don't think it's really realistic. A lot of worries about what he looks like on offense. I've heard from a couple of teams that like he's come in for workouts and hasn't shot it quite as well as like what the numbers would indicate on the low volume. Maybe he's had a couple of workouts where like he shot it really well, and I just haven't heard from those teams. But like, to me, it's not that he is a bad shooter when I hear that. It's that it's probably a little bit streakier than what you would think. And given how like non-athletic he is, you do worry about what that fit would be on, or non-explosive and like right. He's not a guy like he can handle, but he's not a guy that's like going to get past you in like an NBA setting, right? Yeah, if he's not like a 38% 3-point shooter, it's really hard to find a role for him on offense. And the other piece of it is he has 2 ACL injuries in his past, and like I just don't see that. Like I don't see that going super well, unfortunately, like for him on draft night with that in the past.
If he were 2 years younger and had the exact same rest of circumstances, like I could see teams being like, okay, but we can, wish-wash away some of these concerns, and we trust our coaches, and we'll teach him what to do, and get his, shot right, and caress the form and love it until it's ready to go. But he's not 2 years younger, and he has the ACL history, and
like you'd have to wash away both the age and the ACLs to like for it to be a realistic outcome, I think. And I really like the player. Like I really hope he's an NBA player. And like, it's funny, like he's totally different than this guy. But like, I think I mentioned to you at one point, like he kind of reminds me, like I really liked Daquan Jeffries whenever he came out. And again, they're totally different. Like Daquan's like a way better athlete, and like, but they're both super long. They were both like kind of activity drivers on defense. And you could see like a way it can work in the NBA. But yeah, it's like, look, I have him in the top 60. Like I have a draftable grade on him for sure. It's just like, and that's even accounting for the ACLs. I don't see it as like a realistic outcome, unfortunately, for him to be like in the mix in the first round.
Yeah, and the Knicks, like, again, unless they pull some Brock Allerisms and go from 24, 25, and 38 to 18 and 54, right? Like,
right.
He's not a top 40 range guy, I don't think, based on how they look at prospects. So, yeah. But with all that said, Sam, I do have to let you go at some point. I cannot hold you hostage, unfortunately. You have a life. That must be nice. Thank you so much for taking the time. What would you like to send our listeners and viewers to? Something to support, something to go check out that you have put out recently? Anything you want to plug?
Go to The Athletic. I will have my draft guide up on the website at some point. I would say not this week, but next week it will be up.
Okay.
It's going up a full week before the draft this year. We know that. It's just when next week. We're still trying to figure out the exact date, but I have filed all of the copy. We are ready to go there, and the editors are furiously working on it, and I'm very appreciative of them, given that they're editing a book, not an article. Number 2, go to the Game Theory podcast. You know, Bryce Simon and I, we talk about this stuff all the time. We're doing a mock draft tomorrow. So we'll kind of run through and talk through all of the potential outcomes and everything. There's about 10,000 of you that have subscribed so far, so we're really appreciative of that. And yeah, we'll be, kind of hanging out, talking draft and doing all that. So really excited.
Bryce was my episode 1 guest of season 3, and he was such a joy to have on. And except, again, like I said, except for his take about mac and cheese, which just, what's that guy's deal? Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. Kansas. we just gotta we just gotta figure out what's going on in Kansas.
Just smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave. That said, Sam, thank you so much for taking the time. Knicks fans should be grateful to be able to hear your take on this class. It's a fun class. Darn what everyone says about this draft class. This is an awesome draft class to analyze and cover and break down. I've had a lot of fun doing it. And I'm so glad you joined me on this journey.
I don't know if I would go that far on this draft class.
It's fun.
I appreciate the challenge of it.
Yes. Well, that's what's fun about it.
Yeah. Acknowledging that I tend to like watching like awesome players, like watching Brandon Miller last year and watching like Victor and Scoot and those guys. Like, that was more fun. Trying to figure out Cam Whitmore, watching Amen Thompson, like those guys were like more fun than anybody in this class to me. But I also had a great time watching Reed Shepherd and watching that experience. So that was cool.
Yeah, we'll see. He'll go somewhere between 3 and 10, right? Like that. Yeah. That's how this year goes. So the ranges are wide. Sam, thanks so much one last time, and to my listeners and viewers, go check out the Game Theory podcast. Go check out Sam's draft work on The Athletic, and stay tuned right here on the Knicks Film School channels, where you can keep getting draft class and dream draft rules, everything around me, live shows until the draft and even a little bit after. So stick with us. Thanks so much, and see you soon.